Welcome. My name is Kelly Anderson, and this is Fanimated, the animation fan podcast where we get a chance to geek out about our favorite animated media. Kate Callan is back with me to discuss the Disney animated film, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Based on the novel by Victor Hugo, the film opened in 1996 and has been delighting audiences ever since. Prepare for the usual spoilers so we can get started and get animated. Hi, Kate.
Hi, Kelly.
Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
You were just in a musical, so.
I was.
How was that?
It was really fun. It was really good. If I'm a little vocally tired, blame singing Lerner and Low for 3 weeks straight.
Yay!
And then some.
So we're here to talk about The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yes!
Woo!
My favorite Disney movie of all time.
Oh my goodness.
I love it.
I love that it's your favorite. It's one of mine too. So why is it your favorite?
There's a lot of reasons it's my favorite. I think, first of all, I remember when I saw it for the first time, it was the music that really kind of pulled me in and kept me engaged. And it's just such a beautiful score. It's really unlike any other Disney score just because of the use of the choir in the background. And it's just so, like, it's on such another level than any other score, in my opinion. I mean, obviously, you know, we have some beautiful Disney classic scores like The Lion King and Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast, and those are, you know, on like just kind of a separate entity of their own. But I love Hunchback's music and its score just because of its grand scale, and I think it really but it really captures the feeling of the story and of Paris and just kind of the time and the setting, and I think it's so gorgeous, and kind of the themes of the story as well. So that was kind of the first thing, and I think the story is so beautiful. I think the particularly with the Disney movie, unfortunately I haven't read the book of The Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's on my list, but you know, being a busy little bee, you don't always get time to read these things. But you know, of what I know of the story of the book and what I have watched of the movie, I just think the themes of forgiveness and acceptance and tolerance are just really beautiful, and it's something that really speaks to my heart, especially in this day and age. I don't know, I saw the movie for the first time when I was 12, and I don't necessarily know if it kind of spoke to me in the way it does now, but I also remember kind of the first time seeing the movie just being like, wow, this is such a beautiful, you know, picture of this story. And I love that it's such a dark story originally, and I just love that someone was like, hey, let's take this and turn it into an animated movie.
I mean, isn't that it with, like, all of the fairy tale classics? Like, they're all pretty dark originally.
I suppose, that's true. Or, like, I mean, The Lion King is famously based on Hamlet, and that's really dark.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I love it when composers add choirs to the compositions. With this film especially, though, the choir is very prominently featured. A lot of the times you'll have a beautiful choral sound like in the back. Like, of course, John Powell's How to Train Your Dragon scores are the first that pop into my head.
I love how you managed to just like take it always back to How to Train Your Dragon.
I can always connect it to
talent.
How to Train Your Dragon. Thank you. But yeah, you have, with John Powell's work, you have that wonderful choral sound that really ramps up the music and the feel. But with The Hunchback of Notre Dame, it really, I mean, it starts out, boom!
Yes. Oh, yeah,
choir, and you're like, I love it!
And like, having spent the first 22 years of my life in a choir. Okay, subtract a couple years when I was an infant. But like that kind of sound and that style just really like speaks to my soul. It just makes me happy.
I mean, it just makes my heart leap. Like, I'm just like, it's so magnificent and beautiful and big, and yet so like delicate in a way.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think the opening shot of this film is one of my favorites.
Agreed. It's so beautiful.
Because you get the title card, you get this beautiful choral sound, and then all of a sudden, bam, you get the Notre Dame Cathedral in the sky.
On its title.
It does, right away, boom, there's the cathedral. So a quick synopsis of the Hunchback of Notre Dame. Okay, so Quasimodo is a hunchback. Yeah. He lives in the cathedral. He's a bell ringer, and he is not allowed to leave. Frollo, Judge Frollo, is kind of his caretaker. He actually took him from as a baby under upsetting circumstances and raised him and kind of has kept him in the dark, kind of literally, and kept him from the world and definitely sees him as lesser and is definitely like mentally and like abusive and manipulative. So Quasimodo has been alone in the cathedral his whole life. And so all he wants to do is get out and be a part of society. He sings a song. He just wants to be out for at least one day.
And he has this fun gargoyle friend.
He has fun gargoyle friends.
And it's kind of ambiguous whether they're actually real or they're just part of his imagination.
And I think that this movie could have done without them completely, but that's just my opinion.
I kind of go back and forth on the gargoyles because they do provide some of that needed levity because it is really dark.
That's true.
And they do, like their song is really cute and fun, but sometimes it is kind of like, okay, like, it's a kid, it's a foil for kids.
It's the Olaf of this film.
Yes. That is the perfect way of describing it.
So anyway, Quasimodo does get out there, and he is discovered by Frollo, and it's a mess, and he befriends a gypsy, Esmeralda, and she kind of helps him. Frollo is after Esmeralda and all the gypsies, and everything's a mess.
That's a great one. Everything's a mess. Quasimodo, Esmeralda, after she kind of saves after she saves Quasimodo from being humiliated at the Feast of Fools, because he goes to the Feast of Fools, which is this annual festival that he really wanted to attend. He gets exposed there, and people are horrified, and Frollo kind of starts the crowd he leads the crowd in kind of mistreating him. And so after Esmeralda kind of steps in on Quasimodo's behalf, and she ends up having to take sanctuary inside of Notre Dame, because that's the only way that she won't get arrested by Frollo, because he likes to arrest people. And so her being stuck inside of Notre Dame, she kind of connects with Quasimodo again, and they kind of build this friendship. He helps her escape. A fun fact that I read about why a certain element of why she's animated the way she is. Oh. She has these very prominent green eyes.
Yeah.
And according to what I read, in the Middle Ages, green eyes, people thought that was an indicator of either being a witch or being, like, magical being. Yeah, I think it's because it's more of an uncommon, especially presuming if you had, like, really, really bright green eyes.
Right.
It was kind of, because I think green eyes are fairly common, but if you have, like,
I think they're pretty common.
And who knows, genetics back then might
right.
have been completely different. The world is more populated now, so.
Yep, and then of course Frollo does capture Esmeralda and is going to burn her at the stake, and Quasimodo saves her. Yay!
So the project, the production started in the summer of 1993, and the two directors,
Gary Truesdale and Kirk Wise.
I was going to say Greg Wise, which is an actor.
That is correct.
No, so the directors, Gary Truesdale and Kirk Wise, is that their names? And then their art director, and then a bunch of their animators, and then as well as Alan Menken and Steven Schwartz, which I thought was a very interesting fact.
Alan Menken's the best.
personally love Stephen Schwartz. He is one of my favorite composers. I'm getting sidetracked. We'll talk about that later.
All right.
But they all went to Paris. They went to Notre Dame. They visited the Palace of Justice as well. And then they actually went to the original site of the Court of Miracles, or what the supposed original site was. So, and they got like tours of kind of like hidden alleyways and kind of this, just kind of the area around it, so that they could make their animation as accurate as possible. Granted, I have never been to Paris myself, so I can't tell you if it is accurate or not, but it looks pretty dang accurate.
Yeah, I would think so.
It looks pretty dang detailed. So they did, and you know, there's several people out there in the world who have not been to Paris yet. So as long as I feel like as long as they kind of captured the essence, if there are elements that aren't necessarily accurate, I'm kind of okay with that. But it captures the world, it captures the feeling.
And you really get the time too, like
Yeah,
right
absolutely.
away. Like you're in the city and you're like just in this history. Like you just feel it automatically.
And I think with the music too, there is a lot of that kind of choral elements that really ties into what the music of that time was. It's like the end of the 1400s, I think, that this is taking place. I know that the war that they reference in the film that Phoebus is coming back from is the 100 Years' War. So that kind of places it around like mid to late 1400s, I think, if the information is correct. But yeah, just that, and the whole that whole opening number with the Clopel, I think his name is, the jester guy who's the narrator, who kind of has,
or
I can never get these French names.
Je ne sais pas, je ne parle pas français.
It sounds like he says Clopel.
Clopin. It's
Clopin.
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 First of all, his voice actor is incredible.
Paul Candle.
Amazing voice. But
the beginning of the first, like,
the opening
happening.
song is just so effective in setting up the world and the story, and not like throwing too much information at you, but just kind of, you know, setting the exposition. And originally there was no music there. It was just kind of introducing the story. There weren't any songs. And then Stephen Schwartz kind of came in and he was like, hey, let's put some music here. And he actually, from what I read, he had a lot of input in the story as well. You know, they really welcomed kind of key ideas and plot points from him as he was working with them on the score, which I think is really cool. Yeah. I don't know how many composers can really say that, at least in regards to animated films, particularly nowadays.
Yeah, especially nowadays. I feel like, and it's different too, because with this film and other films that have, it's more of a musical, then the words are really important. And I think they do have, composers definitely and lyricists really do have some, you know, storytelling power in that respect. I think it's more different for composers who are helping underscore everything versus like providing words and stuff like that. Either way, composers of all forms are really helping the story and creating the story. Like it's so different when you're watching something that doesn't have the music. Like sometimes it's the music that makes or breaks the feeling of a shot. So yeah, that's really cool that Schwartz, like, man, thank goodness he was there to add that beginning song, because I feel like, I mean, it's not my favorite. I'll tell you my favorite later, but it's definitely a good one.
Well, and kind of bouncing off what you just said about music really influencing the emotion of a story. Oftentimes in films nowadays, when actors are doing a scene, sometimes directors will play music over the top of it just to get that emotion and that feeling so that the actors can feel that and deliver their best performance too, which I think is always really cool. Like, you know, you watch these films and you're like, how did that person kind of just like pull that out of their being? And I think, you know, even as you're watching like your favorite movie, you know, if there's a movie that makes you just really cry, or, you know, it's oftentimes the scoring that's really, like, helping bring those emotions out.
Yes.
I mean, not to take away from anyone's performance, obviously, but, you know, that really influences, or, like, scary films.
Yeah,
you know, Psycho wouldn't be Psycho without the or Jaws without the 2 notes, you know?
Yeah.
It totally influences the whole world, so
music
definitely
really cool. Definitely has a lot to say.
And since we are talking about music, let's just talk about it.
Great.
Because, what is your favorite song from?
My favorite song is Out There.
Same.
I think it's one of my favorite Disney songs, period.
Same.
It's so good.
Out There, I wrote down, Out There is Part of Your World, the sequel.
Yeah.
Only except he's looking down
Instead
as opposed to looking up from the sea.
I would argue that Moana's song is the opposite of Part of Your World that she sings.
How Far I'll Go?
How Far I'll Go, yeah.
It's the opposite of Part of Your World.
It's like
It's
similar. It's similar.
I suppose, because it's not like I want to be where the people are. It's like I want to be away from where the people are.
Well, we can tell that Disney has a theme.
They do. Well, I mean, it's that classic I Want song, right?
Oh, of course.
Every single musical has that. It's usually the, like, first or second song in the whole thing.
Yes.
Introducing that main character and so you know.
Yeah.
It's like.
Proud of Your Boy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It might as well be spring.
It might as well be spring, yes.
If you don't know, that's from State Fair, which we did together.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, it's just that classic trope, like, introducing your main character. What do they want? What do they need? What is their goal? Out There is such a beautiful song.
It's so good, and just
So-
the animation of it too, like how it's storyboarded, and you just feel what Quasimodo feels, and it's something very simple. He just wants to, like, be like in that society, like he wants to be out there, and like I just love it so much, and I will listen to it on repeat.
I also love the little Easter eggs that are in that song. When they zoom in into the village, you can see Belle. You can see, unfortunately, poor Pumbaa on a, he's, like, tied up to, like, these villagers are carrying him to, like, roast him.
Oh, that's so funny.
And then you can also see the rolled up magic carpet somewhere, I believe.
Oh, I'm gonna have to look
I think it's, like, on a cart or, like, on a vendor's stand or something. But those are, and I want to say there might be, like, a hidden Mickey in there, too.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, they hide Mickeys everywhere.
Yeah, so... that's kind of a fun fact.
That is cool.
So if if you're watching the movie, just pause and, like, try to
find them. Yeah.
My so close to
Out There
being tied for my favorite song is God Help the Outcasts.
Oh.
That song, I think, it captures just this feeling for longing that I feel no matter kind of what your walk in life is, whatever you're going through, if you feel like an outcast, that song just speaks to me so personally, and I think really speaks to the heart of the movie. It is a message that I really believe in, you know, a God that is for the poor and the broken and the most in need of mercy, and those who come to him humbly. And, you know, just the contrast in this song between her plea for her people and, you know, she said I ask for nothing, I can get by. There's so many less lucky than I. And then you have that contrast of the people who are praying for these material things and give me wealth, give me fame, give me things that will make me feel temporarily good so that I can get by on this earth, you know, and it's such a contrast, and I love that it's in a film marketed for children. I wouldn't necessarily show this movie to a little kid. I wouldn't show it to, like, my 6-year-old.
This is pretty scary.
I didn't see this movie until I was 12.
I would argue Frollo is one of the scariest villains.
Absolutely. I think Frollo is the scariest Disney villain, in my opinion, because he's not a character. He's kind of a caricature, but there's people in power, not necessarily in the U.S., but all over the world.
And throughout history.
Throughout history, who are just like that, who are, like, you know, they're self-serving and, you know, only after their own piety. And it's just, it's really frustrating to watch through a modern lens, for sure.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, I would say with God Help the Outcasts, it is that that contrast between everyone else in the cathedral and Esmeralda.
Mm-hmm.
And that always just strikes me that she's praying for other people and, like, her people. And although she is suffering so much herself individually, she doesn't ask for help for herself. And I always thought that was just amazing. And, like, you know, you want to aspire to be like that, be like her.
It's one of the highlights of the movie. And it's just visually stunning, too, as she's walking through the cathedrals.
Absolutely.
There's the shot of, like, the stained glass windows with the light coming through.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. And I also love the use, the kind of, you can start seeing that 3D animation come into play. I think the most notably the scene towards the end when Quasimodo swings off of the building and scoops her up from the pyre and then holds her up. But the way the camera angles move and just the use of the 3D animation in that, you can kind of see where it switches to, like, straight 2D and then bringing those 3D elements in.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, for being 1996, it looks so seamless. It's so... I love that. That's, like, one of the most chill-inducing parts of the film. Is just when he holds her up.
Oh, I know.
Sanctuary. Like,
it's crazy.
So cool.
Yeah, and that's around the time they did starting adding that. I think of Aladdin too, where they kind of
absolutely, with the Cave of Wonders.
The Cave of Wonders, and I think this part in Hunchback, I feel like is actually, I think that one's a little smoother than the Aladdin shot, but. Yeah. Okay, Quasimodo is super adorable and precious, and I want the best for him.
I love the way that he is animated because he's obviously different looking. You know, he has the the hunchback. And then, you know, he's got some of, like, the facial deformities and but he is just so, the instant you see him, you're like, oh, he's so sweet. And I think really it has to also do with the voice actor. I think the casting of the voices in this film is so perfect. I think Tom Hulce is the one who voices Quasimodo, and his performance, his just overall with the speaking and the singing is just so beautiful. He gives such a softness to the character that really makes you fall in love with Quasimodo. Yes.
Especially since it's such a drastic comparison to Frollo, who is very harsh and strict. One of the reasons I love Quasimodo so much is that he experiences this kindness from Esmeralda, and he grows fond of her and loves her. And he does get a little jealous of Phoebus, but he's able to put that aside and be not only, like, supportive of Esmeralda, but also supportive of Phoebus. And, like, Quasimodo ultimately really does want the best for them, even though he loves her. And I love that they show that they show that, you know, it's okay if someone doesn't feel the same way about you, and you can, you know, support them and their, you know, relationship, and not, you know, how some other stories would tell it in, like, a more jealous way, I guess.
Saying one thing about the relationship, the kind of love triangle that occurs, it's really interesting how they kind of imply that she ends up with Phoebus. I mean, obviously there's an attraction between the two of them. They have the moment where they kiss. But it's interesting that it's Phoebus that she is with at the end, because you've got Frollo and you've got Quasimodo. Frollo has this, like, intense desire for her, but also because of his religious piety, he kind of sees her as this awful vice. As, you know, he expresses his feelings that she's like a demon and a witch. On the other hand, you have Quasimodo, who sees her as this beautiful, pure kind of angel. So you've got the two, you know, two sides of the coin. But then you have Phoebus, he just sees her as who she is.
Yes.
He thinks it's kind of funny that she's feisty. They have that back and forth in the church where she's got the candelabra versus the sword, and, he's intrigued by her because she has these qualities of being really passionate about, her life and her situation, and it kind of establishes their relationship, and it's just interesting. She's just a normal person who just, she's neither demon nor angel. She's just a woman.
She's human. Mm-hmm. Wow. I've never thought about that. I never connected Quasimodo's attraction for her and Frollo's attraction for Esmeralda. I never paired them, looked at them side by side. But, they're so clearly both right there. Mm-hmm. And it is so vastly different in how they view her. And, yeah, I really love that. And then it honestly makes me like Phoebus more. Because he's not my favorite, but, not for any particular reason, I don't think. But maybe just because I do like Quasimodo so much.
Yeah. And with Phoebus, I like his character. I like the things that they wrote for him. I love that they have that whole scene it just feels like it's written not only to introduce his character, but just to build up to the Achilles heel punchline.
Yeah.
When I just finished watching it before I came over this afternoon, and I was like, yeah, that whole scene was just written so they could make that one joke. But I really love Kevin Kline, who is his voice actor, and I always forget that he is a wonderful singer, and it's such a shame that he doesn't have a song in the film, because I would love to just hear Kevin Kline sing.
Man, what's up with that? Give all these good singers a nice song, people.
But then on the other hand, they might be like, oh good, I don't have to sing this time.
Who knows? Yeah, I'm trying to think. Because honestly, if there was some romantic duet, I don't think it would fit well in the show at all.
No.
And yeah, even though he is a major player, I don't think he's necessarily. It's not necessary for us to get his super objective in this giant song. Whereas with Frollo and Quasimodo and Esmeralda, those are the key players, and so they do have their songs of This Is What I'm All About.
Speaking of romantic duets in the context of Hunchback of Notre Dame, the Hunchback stage musical, it still breaks my heart that it was never produced on Broadway, but I understand because the cost would be enormous, because you'd have to pay your actors and a choir, which is a lot.
But that's what I want. That's all I want, is for a live choir to sing to me.
But honestly, Disney theatricals, you've got a lot of money off of Frozen now, so come on, bring it to Broadway, please.
Yeah.
Even if it's only for a few weeks, just so I can go see it. But there's not a romantic duet between them in the stage musical either. There is kind of it's not really romantic either. There's a duet between Esmeralda and Quasimodo in the show.
Yeah.
And then Phoebus and Esmeralda sing Someday, which is in the film. It's just not in the film itself. It's in the credits. Which, actually, take that back. That is my favorite song.
Really?
From Hunchback. Do yourself a favor. Either listen to the version from the film or listen to the stage recording. And just listen to the words, because I have listened to that song in moments of my life where things just feel so sad and bleak. I'm really glad I didn't see this movie until I was older.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Because I think if I was a kid, I would have either been scared, or I think it wouldn't have affected me the way it did the first time I had seen it.
Yeah, because I must have seen it when I was younger, because I was definitely scared of it. Mm-hmm. And I definitely didn't pick up on everything, how deep the themes are. Mm-hmm. But mostly it was just scary. It was fire and bad things.
Well, and even as a 12-year-old seeing it for the first time, there are definitely themes I didn't pick up on. Mm-hmm. It's only, I think when you watch things over time, or when you see something when you're younger and then go back to it as an adult, I think every single Disney movie, you're I do not remember that.
Yeah, I know. And with any story, you go back and you're always picking up new things from it. Mm-hmm. And as you change, your perspective changes. As your perspective changes, your perspective on those stories changes too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, even like you were saying with current events and this film, mm-hmm. like The Hunchback of Notre Dame rings true.
Mm-hmm. If I'm ever a parent someday, this is a film that I'm excited to share with my kid. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't show it to them until they're older.
Yeah.
Just so that they can have a better understanding. I would kind of try to do the same thing, just like kind of let them wait and not see it right away, just because it can be really scary for a little kid.
Yeah.
Hellfire is an intense song.
So intense.
And even if you don't understand what he's singing about, which I think that song goes over most kids' heads.
Yeah.
Even if you don't understand, the visuals are really scary. There's like the kind of shadowy hooded figures that he's imagining, and so it's kind of a frightening scene for a kid.
Claude Frollo used to scare me.
Really?
I didn't even like him when I was little.
I love him.
He was creepy.
I mean, he's got the little puppet. That's kind of creepy.
I feel like sometimes I don't know whose side he's on.
I think that's the point.
That's valid.
I don't think you're supposed to know. I mean, he is like part of the gypsy clan. Mm-hmm. But I think his main device is just the storyteller. I think it's more of a digestible way for kids to kind of follow the film. If you have this person who's the storyteller, like, gather around, let me tell you the story of Quasimodo.
I'll just say that as an adult now, Claude Frollo is awesome, and I love that he's interwoven into the story as well as being the narrator. Like, I like the use of that, like of using your narrator as more than just the narrator.
Yeah, he's not just like this random person. He actually is a character that experiences and lives in the world, and he knows Esmeralda. He kind of knows the elements of the situation. Mm-hmm. And so he's not just like, let me tell you this random story. It connects everything fully, as opposed to just being like a storyteller telling a story.
Yes, exactly. Quick about the book. I did have to read the book in my French class in high school. And first off, I probably didn't comprehend everything because it was a very slow read because I was reading another language. But it's very different than the film, of course. Like, Disney really changes things up. And of course, as dark as the film is, the book is so much darker. Mm-hmm. And
it's so sad.
It's so sad. And so the ending in the book is that Esmeralda does die and Quasimodo goes to her grave and dies there, and that their bones intermingle. Mm-hmm. And that is the end.
The stage musical ends a little closer to the book.
Really? How so?
They both die.
They both die in the musical?
I don't know if they both die, but Esmeralda definitely is burned at the stake in the musical.
Oh, no.
There's not a happy ending in the musical.
Well, no wonder it didn't go to Broadway.
I want to say Quasimodo. I saw a version of the musical this summer, but that's what I can remember from that she at least dies.
That's
I don't remember.
So sad.
But I kind of like it though.
Really?
I mean, I do love the ending of the movie though. It
makes
makes me cry every time when he walks out and the little girl touches his face.
Aww.
I'm just sobbing. Because it just like it brings back those themes of acceptance, and I think that really reflects some of the religious themes in the film too. In Christianity, there's so much about, having, like, childlike faith and, the innocence of a child, and having this little girl come up to him and touch his face. I think that really kind of drives home the point of that God is a loving God and, not the God that Frollo is worshiping.
Yeah.
It's very pious and... Mm-hmm. And if you actually look at Frollo, he's actually a perfect example of every single one of the 7 deadly sins.
Wow, really?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
I can't list all of them off the top of my head.
Oh, I can because I watch a lot of anime.
Because you watch a lot of anime. You do.
Greed. So start with greed.
Yep.
Gluttony. Lust, Envy, Pride, Sloth. There's 6. And there's one more. Oh, I know it. I can picture the character, but I can't say his name. Wrath. I did it.
Good job, Kelly.
I
Hang
tried.
on, let me look. Okay, it's not all of them, but it's some of them in the lyrics of Hellfire. So, this is coming off of IMDb. It says, the lines, of my virtue I am justly proud, and you know I'm so much purer than the common, vulgar, weak, licentious crowd. Wow, that was a hard word. Show him displaying pride, considered the most dangerous of the 7 of the deadly sins. As it is often used to justify the other 6 deadly sins, or even denying committing them in the first place. This is displayed frequently in the song and the film as a whole, and could be considered the first crime he has committed. Frollo's intense desire for Esmeralda to be his and his alone show lust, envy, and greed. Lust as the intense sexual desire for Esmeralda, especially her body alone. Envy towards anyone else who may gain her affections. Greed for seeing her merely as an item to be gained and wanting her intensely even though he doesn't actually need her. His intent to destroy her if she does not comply is an example of anger and wrath. Frollo claiming it is not his fault he is sinning and blaming Esmeralda for tempting him can be seen as an act of sloth, as he is not taking the initiative to better himself, nor taking responsibility for his own sins. Gluttony is sometimes interpreted as selfishness, displayed when Frollo says he will burn down all of Paris to get Esmeralda. So that's kind of whoever wrote that. It's just on IMDb in their little did you know section.
That is so
whoever
crazy.
wrote that though.
And the lyricist, obviously.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And wow. Again, Frollo is the scariest Disney villain.
Absolutely.
What have you been watching recently, Kate?
I just kind of jump around from show to show. So recently I actually went back and watched a handful of episodes of the old Aladdin. Of the old Aladdin animated series.
Wow. Really?
Just because it popped up in my brain and I just wanted to watch a couple episodes. So it's nothing substantial to it. It's just an episodic fun little romp of Aladdin getting in trouble, and so I've just been kind of every now and again watching a handful of episodes of those, and
that sounds enjoyable.
It's a fun thing to have on in the background.
I have been really, really enjoying the new season of DuckTales.
Wait, is this the second?
This is the second season of the reboot.
I need to go back and watch the reboot.
You have to. Okay.
Woo!
Exactly. My plants over there, I have 3 of them in a row, and they're Huey doing Louie.
Cute.
I know.
I love that.
Thanks. Yeah, the reboot is so well done. It's first off, the animation style is just it's the comic books really come to life, and I love that. And then, how can you argue with David Tennant as Scrooge McDuck?
Absolutely.
You can't. You just have to love him. All the voice actors, too, just do a phenomenal job, and you really get a sense of each character's, personality and the way they interact with everyone else. So it's really, really, really special and really wonderful, and they're really building a great story, too, so I'm excited to see where it goes.
That's awesome.
Well, thanks so much for joining me, Kate.
Thank you for having me and letting me talk about my favorite movies.
Well, that's what we're here to do. All right, we'll see you again soon.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening. If you want to support the show further, consider leaving us a rating and review. It really helps new people find the show. Let us know your thoughts on The Hunchback of Notre Dame or any of your other favorite animated media on Facebook, Instagram, and Tumblr at Fanimated Podcast. A quick reminder that you only have until the end of November to vote for your favorite Christmas film on our Facebook page. You can also email us at fanimatedpodcast@gmail.com. The art for this podcast is done by me, Kelly Anderson. You can find me on Instagram at CandorDraw. The music is provided by the folks at Purple Planet, and a huge thank you to Kate for recommending her favorite Disney film. Bryn and I will be here next week to discuss our first ever game on the podcast, so stay tuned and stay animated.